This is our final week of dealing with how forgiveness is the heart of the gospel, enabling different components of discipleship to be experienced as followers of Jesus. Now, we're going to have another session on uh, forgiveness to sort of wrap it up next week. But these 5 weeks have been dealing with forgiveness as the heart of the gospel, enabling justice, healing, freedom, grace. And this week we add peace to that list. And it's essential that we list peace as one of the components of discipleship because in the narrative of Jesus' life, the announcement of the gift to humanity in the life of Jesus was peace on earth, goodwill among all. Now, when we try to define what peace is, the common definition of peace is that peace is the absence of conflict. But this is a negative definition of a word that has such a positive experience in following Jesus. I don't like to think of peace as the absence of conflict. Rather, I like to think of peace as the presence of trust and truth, not the absence of conflict, but the presence of trust and truth. John was a follower of Jesus who faced many difficulties, pressures, and conflicts in his life, a lay person. Towards the end of his life, he shared with me that his experience had taught him that life is not an experience of sailing the high seas on a calm day, but rather it was learning to ride the crest of the waves caused by storms. Maybe because of our relationship with John, but also with many lay friends whom we have known and witnessed during our journey of life. We have a plate inscribed with this message as you enter our home. It is, quote, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. You see, peace is the presence of trust in the divine presence as we ride the crest of the waves and learn to dance in the rain. That's the presence of trust that, combined with truth, is what peace is all about. And the experience of truth and truth telling reveals how forgiveness enables one to be filled with peace. As I read and reread and study the experience in South Africa, which enabled that country to have a future that was counter to revenge and retaliation, was that even though this effort was all about forgiveness, that wasn't included in the title of the commission. The title of the commission that worked on the basis of forgiveness being the future of South Africa was the Commission on Truth and Reconciliation. And truth-telling was the foundation of this effort. When the wrongdoer and those who were wronged met face to face, the process began with truth-telling. Blaming the law, which legalized apartheid, was not allowed. Blaming the historical context, everyone else was doing it, was not allowed. Blaming others, including parents, teachers, and preachers who taught that wrongdoing of apartheid was really doing good, that was not allowed. Rather, truth-telling, accepting responsibility of harming another because of the color of their skin was the first and only point of beginning allowed in the work of the Commission on Truth and Reconciliation. So it is with the experience of being forgiven. We're forgiven by God, but one has to tell the truth of standing in the need of forgiveness in order to accept the divine gift of agape love. We've got to be true with ourselves. So it is with striving to be forgiving. Telling the truth by both parties is the first and only step that leads to another step in Ubuntu. One of the campfire stories in Genesis 1 through 11 is the story of the natural tendency in human life to blame in order to avoid accountability and responsibility for one's actions. The story of Adam was the story of the blame game in the life of every human being. The story of preachers in the Hebrew Bible and in the life and teachings of Jesus was the way out of broken human relationships, was truth-telling, admitting who we are, responsible both for good and harm. But the first step in the journey of being filled with peace is both trusting the presence of the divine as we ride the crest of the waves in the stormy sea and learn to dance in the rain, but also, and added to that, is telling the truth, accepting responsibility for what one has done. For one leg of peace is trust. The other leg of peace is living with the truth. To be sure, often the consequence of truth-telling does not lead to reconciliation or restoration of relationships. When the other will not be a truth teller, the relationship is not restored. But there can still be peace. For peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of trust in the presence of God, enabling us to dance in the rain and telling the truth in human relationships. Enabling disciples to be makers of peace, that there might be peace on earth, goodwill among all. How is that possible? Only with the miracle of forgiveness, Ubuntu. For as Ubuntu enables the vital components of doing justice, being healed, being free and full of grace to be experienced in the life of a disciple of Jesus, we add being full of peace to the list. For the life and teachings of Jesus was a life of dancing in the rain and riding the crest of the waves, and in all places being one who was filled with peace. Why? Because in all times and in all places, he placed his trust in the presence of agape love, and he only told the truth. As we experience being forgiven and being forgiving, we are called to place our trust in the presence of agape love, and to in all places and all times tell the truth. For trust and truth put together is the experience of peace among all. For your thinking and discussion, what is your response to the understanding that instead of peace being understood as the absence of conflict, it is the presence of trust and truth? What are your stories of the life of others, both the famous and the commoners, whose lives respect the values of trust and truth? What is your personal experience of being filled with peace as a consequence of trusting the presence of God amidst the storms of life, and truth-telling in relationship with others? We look forward to concluding our journey of digging deeper in the experience of forgiveness next week. Thank you for being a part of our journey today.